Alright, so the first review lesson here, well, maybe it's the second one you're listening to, but either way, we're going to talk about why England wanted the colonies. And so I just want you to take a look at this image that I have on here, which is just a little goofy drawing, but I think that if you struggled with this concept, you just should remember this. England was known as the mother country. We talked about that before. And they wanted the colonies for a number of reasons, but it was all very much for the interest of England. It was not to help make the colonies wealthy. England wanted the wealth. England wanted the money. And yes, some colonists wanted to go over there and make it rich themselves, but the king and the country itself, the people in charge, they wanted to have the colonies so they could reap the benefits, not necessarily the colonists. So that's the big idea at first that I want you to understand. England wants the colonies for selfish reasons, not to help make the colonists wealthy. So I'm just going to jump back to our notes here. This was notes that we took on page 5 of our notebook. And if you remember, we actually read this article first about why England wanted to establish colonies. And then we pulled out 5 ideas, and I actually gave you a 6th one. But we talked about a couple things. So the first one was that England was going through a lot of changes in the 1500s and 1600s. Their economy was changing, and they needed places for people to go. They wanted more opportunities to make more money. And so because of those changes, they needed to kind of expand. And that connects to number 2. If you remember, there was this kind of scenario where we had more farmers that were selling wool, and they needed more farmland, and so fewer people were actually able to have farms, and it increased the number of people who were all of a sudden jobless, and then they were in the streets begging for money, and they were homeless, and the king didn't like that. It's not a good look for the country, and so because of this increase in homeless, jobless, and poor people, the colonies presented a great opportunity for a place to send these people. If we're thinking about the colonists themselves, so not the king, but if we're thinking about the individual people, people wanted to move to the colonies because they really have this very positive outlook on this new life. They didn't really know the hardships that they would encounter and the difficulties that it would bring when they actually moved here. They just saw it as a very hopeful place, and they were really positive about kind of going there and turning their lives around and having it be a really good experience for them. England knew that there would be raw materials within these colonies that they would be able to use and turn all of those raw materials into finished products, and then they'd have a new market or a new group of people to sell to in the colonies. So this was a great way for them to make money. They were going to be able to buy these raw materials for a very cheap price, turn them into finished products, and sell them back. They'd also be able to sell to other countries, and they knew they'd kind of expand their selling group and their selling base. And so it was an opportunity for them to make a lot of money. This connects to mercantilism, you guys. We talked about that. Some of you are going to review that for the test too, but that's that whole idea of buying materials cheap and selling them back at a higher price. And then the last one that I added on, if you remember, it wasn't in our reading, but there's another country at this time that's making a lot of money from colonies that they have sent people to, and that's Spain. And England is jealous or envious of Spain's wealth, and so they are interested, the king is interested in these colonies, again, to kind of keep up with Spain. So 6 reasons listed here. Just remember, and this was on the test, but just remember, they are not interested in helping the colonies become very wealthy. They want to use the colonies for their own benefit and for their own wealth. So, That was the review on why England wanted colonies.